Good evening. It's been a long time. It's a very long time. But I've been pretty busy, as you can imagine, as most of us are. But it's about that time again to find our third sexy sup with yours truly, GNC Jesus. So, if there's one thing I could take for the rest of my life, and I had to only take one thing for the rest of my life, I would probably choose fish oil. But if there's a second thing of almost equal importance, if not equal importance, is CoQ10. Most people have heard of it. A lot of people have heard of it. Typically on the older side. But if your goal is long and strong life, then that starts today. So CoQ10, what is it? Well, glad you asked. So most people understand that we are electric. So we make this thing called ATP, and it's the ultimate currency of energy. Much like money is to go on a shopping spree. We have to spend it to walk out of there with anything. We don't get clothes for free, unless we're dishonest. Which I'm sure you're not. But, so imagine we get to making energy. Long story short, there's this assembly line-esque mechanism. It's called the mitochondrial electron transport chain. And it's much like an assembly line for an automobile. There's 5 complexes. And CoQ10 is involved in the very first complex. And I'll tell you what it does. It essentially acts as a middleman. It takes electrons from what are known as reducing equivalents, or essentially metabolized fats and carbohydrates. It takes an electron from there, it accepts it, and then it donates it. So that's important because that's all the electron transport chain is. It's just donating, accepting electrons from one place to another, essentially, until you have electrons on one side of the hallway and protons on the other, creating a proton gradient. So it's very important because that's what CoQ10 does. And it's actually dysfunctional activity in the first complex of which CoQ10 is involved has actually been implicated in a lot of illnesses and diseases. One of them, I believe, was optical neuropathy, or that might be redundant, but optical neuropathy, and also Parkinson's has drawn a lot of strong correlations to it. So it's important because if we can't make energy properly, our cell can't continue to survive. Much like an obstructed air pathway. If we can't breathe, we're going to die. So it's very important. And as we get older, just naturally, our CoQ10 levels naturally decrease. So it's even of more importance. And to be honest, it's a pretty well-researched, well-studied ingredient. There's no hype, there's no gimmicks. And I'm pretty sure you go and ask any cardiologist or neurologist, and they'll fully advocate it. So, but also that's not all it does. So an important part is when while it's acting as a middleman, it also plays an important role in the transport of protons across what's known as the lysosomal membrane. That's important because lysosomes are part of the cell that digest and dispose of cellular debris. So too much of that can be unsalubrious for the cell, much like if you ever seen on hoarders. They don't get rid of the trash. It's disgusting, full of sickness, filth, bacteria, all kinds of things. So it's the same logic in a cell. So that's important because that proton gradient that CoQ10 helps create, lysosomes need an acidic pH for its enzymes to take effect. And what makes something acidic? Protons. So in essence, CoQ10 allows these cellular debris disposal factories of the cell to operate more efficiently and more thoroughly, which is only a good thing, right? Because life and death begins and ends at the cellular level. And a lot of people don't think about it because it's so imperceptible. So, some food for thought. I mean, most people understand CoQ10 is a massive antioxidant, which actually it'll help you spare vitamin E, which is also known as alpha tocopherol, I believe. But that is what CoQ10 does. And funny thing, the biosynthesis of CoQ10 has 3 steps, beginning with the first step requiring vitamin B6. So that's a cool correlation, because vitamin B6 is pretty versatile. And if you didn't know, it helps regulate androgen receptors for you guys, which is good because testosterone is an androgen. And the better the androgen receptors receive such a molecule, the better our body can use it. So CoQ10, very important to the assembly of energy. Massive antioxidant, but also very important to the digestion and disposal of cellular debris by creating that proton gradient for the lysosomes. So that might be a little technical, but I tried to use a metaphor as best I could. But anyway, CoQ10, check it out. If you're serious about living longer and stronger, or if you're just getting up there in years, give it a look-see. You'll be glad you did. All right. Godspeed.